Welcome to Yes and Land, where we say yes to the reality of what you're facing, and we say and to the possibility, joy, and new chapters still ahead. Today, our guest is Sophie Gardner. Sophie has a career full of a lot of really interesting things. Sophie has been in private equity. She's helped with selling businesses, doing turnarounds on businesses, I think some M&A in there. She's got a really great career dealing with really high ticket, high net worth individuals with their businesses and with sales. She is the president of Ultimate Advisors, which is a business coaching company. And she also is the director of client solutions at RCG Law Group. So we are very excited to have Sophie with us today to talk a little bit about stepping into the unknown and taking on new challenges. So Sophie, welcome.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
So as we start, let's get a little bit more about your background. Mm-hmm. So take us back to kind of like where you would consider the start of your career.
Okay. I would say probably the start of my professional career, if you will. My parents vocalized that they were going to be purchasing an investment property. So I was curious, started asking a plethora of questions in regards to like, how much money do you have to put down? What to expect? Why did you choose that location? Things of that nature. And by the end of that conversation, they mentioned the dollar amount that they would be forced to pay their realtor. And there'd been a bit of hesitancy from, purchasing a property because, taking that into consideration. So, I was like, okay, well, if a purchase price is X amount of dollars, like what would I make? And I proceeded to convince my parents that same day that if I could get my realtor's license in 30 days, would they let me be the one to help them procure that property? I'm surprised that they agreed because anyone that's a real estate agent knows just because you get your realtor's license, it does not mean that you are well equipped to handle actually finding a property that's going to have any type of advantages in the grand scheme of things. But nonetheless, it ended up being a great transaction. They were able to turn it around for a significant profit. So worked out in the long run.
What a start.
But that is kind of my initial start. I've always been a bit of a go-getter, if you will. I come from two super entrepreneurial parents. And so we were raised that you kind of got to get a little scrappy, you got to be not afraid to do things that are unconditional, not non-traditional, if you will.
Unconventional, yeah.
Unconventional as far as, betting on yourself a bit.
Yeah.
And so that's where it kind of transitioned into business ownership because my dad has owned his own business. So we have business ownership, sales, things like that just spoke to me.
So you take on getting your real estate license in a ridiculously fast time. You make this transaction happen. Tell me about when was it that you got into private equity and like how did that happen? Because like private equity is not the easiest thing to get into.
It is not. I feel like every time I've told people that I fell into private equity, they don't typically believe me because usually there's a really clear kind of career path or trajectory that most people go to get into that space. But for me, I was doing residential real estate. I was leaning into getting into the commercial real estate space. And I had an opportunity to help with the facilitation of a lease for a flex industrial space for a private equity firm. And it just so happened that once negotiations were done and things had concluded with that deal, I got presented the opportunity that they wanted to bring me on internally and bring me on board. So
no kidding.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think, it's interesting in life where when certain opportunities come, if we're willing to step into those and take those, being prepared to do those, but also like kind of like the topic's going to be today, right? Like being willing to make that leap because that still was a risk, right? Like, oh, hey, here's this private equity firm who's saying they want to offer you a job. You've been doing real estate. Like, who's to say that's going to be a successful venture, right? Like it's something that's totally different, and yet like you decided to do it. So what was it? Like, where did you find that? Where did that come from? You're like, you know what? I'm gonna take this chance. I'm gonna take this chance on doing private equity.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that's a lot of I think that question specifically is what a lot of people ask themselves, right? Especially once we get to a certain age, I think there's always a bit of fear that comes from that unknown of like, what if I change my careers? You know, especially when you get into, after a certain age, it gets scarier and scarier, I feel like. And for me, I think the biggest thing that I took, and I really, took into consideration, if you will, was, what if I don't, right? What if there's an opportunity that's presented itself and I have to think to myself, what could have happened, right? And so I think for me, like I was looking at the opportunity cost, right? And I think the upside, the potential upside, if you will, had a lot more benefit than if I didn't just try something new and see what happens.
Yeah, love that. There's all studies done all the time about loads of different things, and I remember reading about a study where they were talking to people, like it was a lot of people at the very end of their life, right? Like people who are clearly like on the last few weeks, the last few months of their lives, and asking them about their regrets, like what things did they regret in life, and the studies were clear. It was almost always regrets of things they didn't do as opposed to things they did do. And I think that's really informative, right? Like it's go and take the chance, go take the opportunity, and maybe it won't work out. But what's the worst thing that can happen? Well, you had an experience and you learned from it. If you don't take that step at all, if you're not willing to take it, then you've robbed yourself of the opportunity to grow in that situation. Either grow where it's a financial success or some other success, or grow because it didn't work out. Now you can learn from that and do something different the next time. But that's still hard. Why do you think a lot of people still get held back from that? Because I think a lot of people are familiar with that concept, right? Yeah. And yet people still let fear dominate their decisions. Why do you think that is?
I think a simple answer would be human nature.
Yeah.
Right? I think we get super comfortable with what becomes, our familiar. And so it might not always be to our benefit, where we're at, whether that's situationally, whether that's within our relationship dynamics, right? But it's what we know. And that feels a bit safer than something that could work out in our favor, that could be way better for us, mm-hmm. but it's something that we don't know, right? It might be a place that we've never been before. Yeah. They talk a lot about people that have experienced, especially, severe trauma in their life. There is a tendency that they see from like a psychological perspective where people will continue to find the same partners, or they'll continue to put themselves in the same situation that has worked to their detriment, that puts them in harm's way, or that, it's a situation that doesn't bring out the best version of them, but they continue to do it over and over again because it feels more comfortable than breaking the cycle of the toxic relationships, right? Taking a chance and working, in a new environment that they might not know what the result's going to be.
Yeah.
And so it's
so
something you see.
Right. When we talk about like what the core human needs are, one of those core needs is the feeling of safety and security, right? Yeah. And it's interesting that we can, as humans, feel safe and secure in a situation that's actually not safe or secure. It's not like we're in harm's way, but because it's familiar and comfortable, we get that feeling of safety and security because you know it. It's the known. I have the known, so it's safe for me to have the known, even though it's terrible, even though it's I don't like it. I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about this relationship or this thing, but I know what to expect.
It's predictable.
It's predictable. Yeah. Too many times people keep themselves in that loop, not willing to break free. So that's kind of where we're at today, right? This topic of today is, how do we shift that? How do we take that mindset where, we have what's existed for us previously. We have the perceptions and the experiences that we've had from our lives. And now we want to break free. We want to step into the unknown, finding the courage to do so, finding the strength to step out, even when there might be those who doubt us, even those who are super close to us might doubt us. So that's kind of the topic today. Mm-hmm. So take us into that. Like, talk me through, what that looks like from like a human perspective, what people might be experiencing when they're in those types of situations.
Yeah, I think when people are in those types of situations, it can be really hard to think about a different way that life could even be, right? I feel like you can sometimes feel kind of stuck, right? Mm-hmm. That there's no alternative to the life that you're living. There's an interview that they did with David Goggins, and I know he can be maybe a bit controversial because he has some very strong opinions, but this one did stand out and resonate with me, where he talks about the power of challenging our reality. He talks about, because we can experience the feelings of discomfort, dissatisfaction, pain, but it's not enough of a catalyst to actually push us to make change. And so usually what he says to do, and he gave kind of some very, I guess, unconventional suggestions, but the respondent, I can't remember who he was doing the interview with, the other individual in the podcast recommended something a bit more mild that I think a lot of people could do. When you're feeling stuck, he recommends starting off with closing your eyes, and instead of thinking about the problem itself, think about the emotion that's tied to your problems, right? Think about the emotions you're experiencing in your life in that present moment. And then you start with imagery, visualizing and actually painting a picture of what your life would look like if it was a little different, right? And so kind of getting into that hypothetical state, right? Allowing yourself to actually imagine not just what it would be like, but tying it more into the emotions of what would it actually feel like? What would it feel like if I was more financially free? What would it feel like if I felt safe in my relationship? What would it feel like if I felt valued in what I'm doing? And then he says, kind of reverse engineer it at that point. What would it look like at that point to get you to a place that, not saying that you will experience those things, but that you're more likely to experience those things on a continuous and hopefully daily basis? And that really stood out to me. And I feel like since I've started to do that personally in my life, I've noticed a tremendous change with some of the decisions that I've made, in my willingness to get uncomfortable and try something new, all because it's leading me in that direction of getting to experience those emotions that I want to feel more and more often.
It's what's interesting is you talked about that. I'm reminded of some research that I heard about where when we experience an emotion, whatever emotion it is, we actually only have that emotion for 20 seconds. And so then the question, of course, that I had, and they, of course, led into it because they knew what I was going to ask in my head. Well, then how do we have these emotions we experience for longer than that? And what the research says is that we replay them in our heads. And so when we have a negative emotion and we're really down and depressed about something, what's happening is we have the thought, we have the emotion for 20 seconds, and then we replay the thought. And then we replay the thought, and then we replay the thought. And so that's where we get into that depressed state, and we wallow because all we're doing is actually just replaying that same negative event that's triggering that emotion. And so what I like, what David Goggins is suggesting here is it's a way to reframe what that thing is that you're playing in your head to elicit a different emotion. Mm-hmm. And it can break that cycle of the wallowing or of the depressed state by visualizing. Having a different thought, experiencing a different emotion. It's also why it's helpful to name emotions, right? Like, okay, I'm down right now. Okay. And why? Okay, because I'm thinking about this thing that happened. In our firm here, we deal with a lot of divorce, right? Yeah. Somebody can be thinking about that, like, oh, I'm down because of this divorce. And oh my goodness, it's divorce and it's divorce. And they replay it and they replay it and they replay it. And it's just this negative wallowing. But breaking that cycle by visualizing something different could could have huge impact. So I love that. I love that suggestion there. So when we're looking at a willingness to then step into the unknown, how does somebody dig deep to find the willingness and the ability to overcome that emotion that they're having where they fear it, right? The stress, the anxiety, whatever it is that's keeping them from that. How can people have that courage to step into something that's different?
Yeah, I think that can be super challenging, right? I think some of us face certain challenges or certain fears that, are present for quite an extended period of time, right? Or if you've been replaying the same fear over and over and over again, it's really hard to get out of that headspace, right? I think sometimes that amplifies things, if you will. And so what I would say to that is they've conducted numerous studies that you can't experience fear and gratitude at the same time. So what might be the best piece of advice to overcome some of those fears would actually be to, allow yourself to step out of fixating on the fear that's taking place, and instead looking for ways that you can reframe and, introduce gratitude into the scenario.
Yeah.
And that might be able to be what helps you actually get out of that continuous, down state, or to start slowly pushing past the fear to then actually have the courage to do something different, to say enough is enough, and to start actually making those changes in your life for the better.
Yeah. Regular gratitude practice can go a long way into helping do some of those things, especially if you're seeking something different.
Yeah.
It's interesting when this has come up, we have in our company, we do these daily huddles in the morning, and as you know, and one of our employees who runs our Friday huddle, she always has us do a gratitude practice where we set aside, like, on the huddle, we all sit in silence for like 3 minutes, and the idea is we write down the things we're grateful for. It's like a regular gratitude practice. When I've thought about this in the past and talked with other people about it too, and for people who are religious, who might pray to their deity, right? One of the things that's very common to do in prayer is to thank your deity for things. It's gratitude, right? It's like a built-in gratitude practice. And it's funny because when I think about it too, like when you're teaching your kids, say how to pray, and you talk to them about like, okay, you got to say the things you're grateful for. And, kids will, but then they always want to go back to the same things. Yeah. Grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for school. Yeah. And like that kind of gratitude practice doesn't get us there. Yeah. It's a deliberate gratitude practice of like trying to come up with something different and truly like thinking about the gratitude for those things. Yeah. I think that brings the right emotions that we're talking about. Yeah. Because if we're just using words that we're just repeating all the time, it just is meaningless, right? Yeah. It's like digging deep to say like, what am I actually grateful for? Like if I look at the day, if I look at the week, like what things could I actually truly be grateful for? I'm grateful to be alive, sure, but like, why am I grateful to be alive? Like, what was my day like that something happened and it was like, okay, that was actually, yeah, I'm glad I got to experience that. I think that can really help in that gratitude practice. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that's really cool that you can do as well is, let's say you're having a hard time actually thinking of those things that you're truly grateful for. I'll just share something personal. I struggle with chronic illness, and I got to a really dark place in my life because I felt like it didn't matter what I did, I was always so sick. And it consumed me. It just felt like I couldn't actually move forward because I always felt like I was getting pulled back. And as I've started doing more and more personal development, one of the strategies that they teach is when you don't feel like there's anything that's going your way. Maybe there's nothing to be grateful for because everything in your life is falling apart. I didn't have a lot of good things to say. So instead, I started saying, I get to try again. And so every day when I felt like I was giving 110% and I was still ending up in bed crying because of the pain or feeling like I'm just not doing enough in my life. That was that small and simple daily reminder. And that's where I had to start. You know, everyone has different starting points, but my starting point was I would just remind myself, you know what? I'm grateful that tomorrow I get to start again. I get to start again. I get to try again to have a good day. Yeah. And slowly, it did help me to start recognizing the things in my life that were going good and things that I was truly grateful for. You know, I started being more grateful that when I'd pick up the phone, my nurse would answer. And I knew she was going to charge me. I knew that I was going to have to pay for the fee for the doctor, but you know, I didn't allow that fear of finances or the fear of, you know, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me to offset what I could take ownership and control over, which was recognizing some of those areas that I am grateful and that did help me to overcome some of the fear that came with those challenges.
And so sometimes the voice that we have to overcome is our own, right? The fear of our own. What about when someone's facing outside pressures that are limiting that person, right? That are instilling in that fear and causing a reluctance to change or step into something new?
That can be almost more difficult to navigate than sometimes our own internal thoughts. You know, I think a lot of people really care about the opinions of others, especially if it's coming from someone really close, someone that they value their opinion of them. But something, you know, that I would encourage people to ask themselves is usually if there's negativity that's being put onto another person, it's coming from somewhere inside that person. And so sometimes it's not always personal. When someone's telling you the things that you need to change, you need to fix, most of the time, you know, you see with a lot of successful people that are successful from a career standpoint or just successful in life, right? Maybe they're really secure with who they are. They are able to have, you know, constant fulfillment is the feeling that they feel or experience. Most of those people aren't putting people down, projecting that negativity. And so it can be really hard, right? It's not an easy thing to face, but sometimes we maybe need to pause and think to ourselves, you know, could this be coming from an insecurity that person's having?
For sure.
Is this fully tied to just me? And usually the answer is no.
Yeah, I mean, I think that point really was driven home for me. A week or two ago, I was listening to a podcast, and they were talking with Whitney and Mark from Dancing with the Stars.
Okay.
Did you watch this recent season?
I did not watch it,
Girl,
but
okay. For all y'all,
it's controversial.
I hope y'all watched it because I watched it and ate it up. We were dedicated every Tuesday night to making sure that we were there to watch it. My girls absolutely loved it, especially my daughter Lucy just absolutely ate it up. So a little bit controversial about Mark and Whitney being eliminated in semifinals, not making it to the finals, right?
True.
And you know, for whatever reason, like she's, you know, the villain on was it what's the show? Why
Secret Lives?
Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Like, no, I couldn't even think of the show. Hugely popular. Like, it's the biggest show right now. I can't even remember it. And Mark was telling the host about some private messages that he and Whitney had received. And it was really, like, in part disheartening, but then, you know, I had to take a step back and think about why. But, you know, I'm watching this show, and throughout it, like, part of the reason why I liked it so much is because it just seemed like a lot of, like, positivity. It seemed like the people there that are dancing because they loved it, and they were really supportive of everybody else. Now, does everybody there want to win? Well, you're sure they want to win, right? It's not like they don't want to win. Yeah. But it also didn't seem like there was, like, a lot of negativity, and they weren't mad when somebody else did well. They celebrated somebody else doing well. I'm like, a show of mostly, like, positivity, which I loved, right? And I think that's why I loved watching it with my kids and experiencing that because it felt like a show of positivity. So these people are out there, they're putting themselves out there. It's a positive show. And then they get these messages that are like saying these horrible things, like calling them names and saying like, you should just quit the show and you should just go and die. And it's just like, where does that come from for somebody? Now, first off, like, it just makes me sad that Mark and Whitney had experienced that because nobody should ever have to experience another human saying those things to them. But then to your point here, it's like, okay, what is that really saying about the person who is saying that in the first place, right? Like, that's coming from somebody who is not in a good place themselves. They're clearly experiencing things in their life where they must be deeply unfulfilled. So, it's sad that that's the case. It's sad that somebody's choosing to express themselves in that way, and that does make it hard. It makes it hard when you're trying to do something good or trying to experience something enriching and fun and fulfilling. I'll give Whitney credit. Like, that's what she was doing, and she's expressed that. Like, she was doing something that was deeply fulfilling for her, and then to be attacked like that just seems so inhumane. But then people have to find a way to like move past it and to say like, okay, that person has their own issues and their own problems, and I can't let that affect my choices to do what I'm trying to do to be fulfilled, which is still, like you said, like super hard. So in your career, have you had people doubt you? And when they have, how have you moved past it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's part of the human experience is you're going to have people that do make assumptions about you, about who you are, about your character. And that's not to say that, I think everybody makes mistakes. Everybody, maybe falls short. Sometimes we spread ourselves a little too thin. And so, we didn't, there were certain deals that, when I was trying to work as hard as I could, I was working 80-hour work weeks and I still did nothing well. So I was getting feedback that I was falling short, and that might have had some merit to it. They might have been right. But I think when you face people that doubt you, especially when you're looking at like your professional career, right? When you're in your employment, I think first and foremost, it's make sure you're in the right room, right? You can't start to fix a problem if it's a space that maybe you're never going to be valued in. Mm-hmm. I think that's important. I think that's the first step, is ensure that it's a room that you could be recognized for the value and the contributions you're making, because you're always going to fall short in certain people's eyes, right?
Sure.
So making sure you're in the right room. But when people doubt you, I think there's two ways you can look at it. You can start to doubt yourself, or you can start to rise to the challenge, rise to the occasion. And I think, again, with making sure you're in the right room, you're not going to be putting in effort that's going to go wasted. But I do think we all have the opportunity to have that grateful dissatisfaction, right? That we're grateful for how far we've come, but also be open to feedback, mentorship, recommendations of how we can continue to grow, learn, and excel to show up as the best version of ourselves.
Yeah.
Because, life's a journey, and most of the time we don't have enough experience doing one thing that we are that professional, right? That we're a master of our craft. We have all the knowledge in the world. And so sometimes taking that feedback and learning how to implement it can have a lot of value.
Yeah, for sure. And so that kind of takes us to our next segment, which is our Disney movie tie-in. Okay.
Love it.
So our Disney movie tie-in today is from none other than Tangled, which is a wonderful show.
One of my absolute favorites.
So good. And so kind of take us through the application here to what we're talking about with stepping into the unknown, having the courage to do it, even with doubters, in what Rapunzel experienced.
Yeah, Rapunzel is a great example for us of what life can look like in a lot of ways. Because if you've seen the movie, you've seen the show, she grows up and she's completely isolated in this tower, and that is all she knows.
That's
And
her reality.
That's her reality. And she's being constantly bombarded with, you're not enough. You know, her mom is constantly putting her down, right? Telling her all these things about her. And she's this dreamer, and she has this goal that she wants to go see those lights. And she's constantly being told that, like, that is the worst thing that she could be doing. Get that out of her mind, and that's something that is never going to materialize for her. And so when she goes to make that jump to actually leaving her tower, first and foremost, she gets to the bottom of her hair, and she literally holds up her toes because she's scared to even make contact with the grass, right?
Yeah.
And she finds as soon as she does, then, you know, she kind of goes into her next song of, like, feeling the grass.
Yeah.
And she starts to get these new experiences. She starts to feel things tied to the environment around her that she's never felt before.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we see her going through this entire journey that's all unknown. And that's kind of, you know, a big part of the storyline is what she experiences along the way.
And when she's still in the tower and she's wanting to see these lanterns, I think one of the things that we see from there is that clearly for her, she knew there was something more, right? There was something, a greater, deeper purpose out there for her. I mean, one of the key songs when she's in the tower is, "When will my life begin?" Like, my life hasn't even started yet.
Hasn't even started.
I'm in this stinking tower all the time. I can't leave. My life hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
So she had this, like, greater purpose she knew was out there. And then she had the limiting voice, right?
Yep.
So like you said, like, Mother Gothel is the limiting voice. Like,
Yeah.
Mother knows best.
Mother knows best.
Life's too scary. You can't go out there. I'm
Yeah.
going to protect you, right?
And then convinces her to doubt herself
Yep. Yep.
as a result. Yeah.
And yet she had such strength of conviction
Mm-hmm.
that she was willing to take that leap.
Yeah.
Right, take that leap. And I do think it's interesting is even after she touches her toes down, she runs around the grass, right, which had to be, like, you know, be an amazing feeling, right? You've never been
Yeah.
on grass before and you run around in it, like, be amazing. But then she goes through in the next portion of the movie this, like really sad and scared, and then back to, like, being glad, and then, like, oh crap, I'm gonna let my mom down. Like, oh no, I do want to do this, right? Like, it wasn't like she leapt out and then it was all roses and butterflies at all.
No.
Right? Like, what did she experience after that?
Yeah, she experienced constant questioning throughout her entire journey. And so, you know, when you pose the question of, like, taking that leap into the unknown and what does that look like, it's never a guarantee, right? And I think sometimes people, that's what can get them, is because there isn't that guarantee. There's always this, like, I'll wait. I'm not ready. Like, I want to do this. I'm going to do this. I should do this. You know, I should get out of this bad relationship. I should leave this job that I've been at far too long. And there's always this kind of I'll do it, but I'm not going to do it now.
Yeah.
And so I think what's cool is, like, year after year, right, she continues to draw on her wall as she's making the plans to do it.
Yeah.
And I think you have to just get to the point in your life that, and, you know, and they talk about, like, the pain and the discomfort outweighs that perceived sense of safety that you feel. And that's usually what gets people to take action.
Yeah. And in the divorce context, we talk about it that people don't get divorced until the pain of divorce is outweighed by the pain of staying together.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's what spurs somebody to action when it comes to divorce situations, you know. And I think, you know, with Rapunzel and her experiences there, I just think it's really helpful for us to think about, like, she continues to experience difficult situations. It's not that it was,
No, it doesn't go away.
like, she makes this choice and then the whole world is different. Like, she meets a guy who's actually, like, doesn't have the right intentions, right? Like,
yeah, that is a thief.
like he just wants the crown.
Stealing things left and right.
Like, she's got the crown. He wants it back. He's
Homeboy
like,
is being chased by the police.
yeah, I'm only taking you here because, like, I got to get this crown back. And she's got this horrible, like, not real mother, right? Who is just had her all locked up and trying to take advantage of her. And yet, like, she still continues to be willing to step out and try new experiences and have positive impact on people. And, you know, and probably my favorite song, there's actually a lot of really good songs in this movie, but I've Got a Dream. I just think it's such a fun song, right?
Oh, so cute.
And what I like about it too is that that's the song there, but then the arc of her and the other people in the Snuggly Duckling, is that what it's called? I think so. Is like, by the end, they actually are doing those things, right? Like, by the end, you've got one of those big nasty guys who's baking, and you got one of them who's actually, like, you know, making the little characters and stuff. So that, like, and then of course she is willing to go out there and ends up finding what her true value was, and that she was the princess, right? And so it's just really nice. Like, it still was a rough way to get there, but, like, part of the value is in what she experienced to do it. That, like, oh no, I actually can handle these things. Like, yeah, Mother Gothel was right. There's a lot of scary things out there. And guess what? I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah.
I'm totally up for the challenge. And I really love that about her character and the way that it plays out throughout that show. Any other takeaways from Rapunzel? Or from Tangled as a whole?
From Tangled as a whole, I would say, again, kind of going back to naming your emotions like you mentioned, right? And as we talk about that visualization, I think she is such a great example of that, you know, they talk about, you know, in psychology, that we can actually materialize, and some people call it manifesting, you know, call it what you want, but we can materialize and we have more influence over the way that we experience life and our reality than we think we do. And so I would say one of my biggest takeaways is take an intentional effort to sit down, name the emotions you're feeling, and then name the emotions you want to feel in life. Allow yourself to visualize what that could look like, and then work backwards to start thinking through small steps. You know, if you're scared to take the big leap, that's okay. You know, think about how long people will stay in a marriage, for example. You know, we see people stay 10 years too long, and they're the ones that tell us that, right, with how they stayed in that dynamic. And so, you know, take that small, intentional daily effort to start moving towards choices that are going to lead you closer to feeling the way you want to feel, right? Whether that's something like, you know, let's say you've been struggling with insecurity because of your weight or your appearance, right? That's okay. We all have those problems, you know. We all think certain things about ourselves, and it happens to the best of us. But, you know, we have the opportunity to every day take those small intentional steps to fuel our body so we have more energy, right? That energy might allow us to have more, have a more productive workout, right? That energy might help us to show up more for ourselves, right? Same thing with, you know, parenting, you know, you have 4 littles, you have 4 kids, and, you know, we're not perfect. And so if you're finding yourself feeling constantly frustrated, maybe take a step back, recognize the feelings that you've been constantly feeling tied to your kids, and rewrite that script of the feelings you want to feel when you think about your children, and then take some of those intentional steps by, you know, trying to build more of a relationship with each individual child, right? Maybe you realize that you've been so stressed out, you don't have the bandwidth, and so you've maybe been a little snappy, right? And that's not the reality that you want to experience, that you want your kids to be experiencing. And, you know, you, again, that intentional effort, you recognize maybe you're not showing up how you want to, and you plan an activity with your kids, you know, and you get that quality individualized, focused attention on them. And, you know, what I'll say is like they remember it,
Oh, for sure.
you know? And again, it's some of those smaller steps can lead to those bigger changes that we want to feel and that we want to experience. And, you know, sometimes we're going to be required to make big decisions.
Yeah.
We see people all the time having to make life-altering decisions that are going to change the way that their whole life looks. And those things can be a lot scarier. But again, if we take that intentional time to think about the present, visualize the future, and we tie those emotions directly to it, that usually gives us a little bit of a clearer roadmap of, you know what, we're not on the right track. Let's redirect so that we can start getting there.
Yeah, absolutely love it. Okay, so let's take it to the next segment, which is called This or That.
This or that. I'm ready.
Okay, so you just got to tell me this or that, and like be prepared to defend any kind of controversial choice you make here, because some of these there's right and wrong answers. So just forewarn, okay? Forewarn.
Okay. Hit me.
Seeing lanterns in the sky or exploring the kingdom market?
Lanterns in the sky.
Okay, that's a good one. I'm okay with that one.
Okay.
Pascal, sorry, it's Pascal. Pascal, sorry, Disney fans. Pascal or Maximus?
Maximus.
Yeah. Look, that's such a good character. They do such a good job with him in that. Like,
I love it.
they're both amazing, but Maximus, there's just something there. Like, I love him.
I like that he has a bit of stubbornness.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's authentic.
Oh, totally.
You know,
he's definitely
he's
that.
not afraid to be himself
Mhm.
and to make what he wants known.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's
And
a bad thing.
he's always trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Like he's in pursuit of doing the right thing. I love that. Okay, singing with the pub thugs or painting the tower walls?
Singing. I'm a huge singer.
True, you are a singer.
So
okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, put me in any environment. If there's music to be had, give me a mic. I'm ready.
Okay, so now we're going to take singing out of the mix. Baking or painting?
If I bake, do I have to do the dishes after?
No. Let's go with no.
Then baking.
Baking. That's always the worst part.
Yeah, I'm not very
The
artistic.
cleanup
I'm gonna be
afterwards.
honest.
Yeah, that is, I'm painting. No one could recognize it if I paint it. Exploring the forest or going on a rowboat?
I'm gonna go rowboat.
Okay, a little rowboat.
Little
Okay.
rowboat.
Yeah, well, Flynn Rider out there with Rapunzel on a rowboat.
Yeah.
Okay.
It feels like a vibe.
It definitely does, right? And watching the lanterns, there's definitely a vibe there. Flynn Rider or Aladdin?
Oh.
I know they're both thieves.
Both thieves.
They both have a story arc
both
where
a
they're like,
little
they kind of lie about who they
kinda
are,
bad boy.
right? But then they turn out to be like great guys. They just needed somebody to believe in them.
I'm gonna say Aladdin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I love Flynn Rider, but like I grew up with Aladdin. So there's something like with Aladdin that I just love.
See, I feel like Aladdin, through his personal experience, he decides to make those changes from within.
Mhm.
Again, controversial, but I'm just going to share. I feel like Flynn becomes better because of Rapunzel. So I think it's a little different.
Okay, there you go. More genuine from Aladdin. Okay, last on the this or that. Anna or Elsa?
I think Elsa.
Okay, and how come?
I think, I mean, no fault of Anna's. She's younger. But I think Elsa, there's so much more pressure on her as the older sister. I mean, she's constantly trying to take care of Anna. She's managing everything all on her own. Like, she has a lot of stress on and pressure on her shoulders, and I think she carries it really well.
Yeah, totally fair. Okay, now here's our rapid fire segment. So I'm gonna throw something out there, and you just gotta give me the first answer that comes to your mind. So
Okay.
don't overthink it. That's the key here.
Okay.
Do not overthink. Favorite Disney movie?
Probably Tangled.
Okay, there you go.
I love it.
Favorite Disney song?
Ooh, I'm Ever? Wow.
ever.
Probably A Whole New World.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to Aladdin.
Going back. It's
What
my
a
parents.
classic.
It's their
It's their song.
marriage, their theme song.
No kidding.
Yeah.
There you go.
Played at their wedding.
Okay, now here's one that's a variation. Best Disney song.
Best Disney song. Ooh.
It could be the same, but for some people it's not.
That's a great question. I want to ask more questions. I know that's not how it works.
You're right. But fire away.
I'm not good at rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Fire away. What's the question?
I would say, a favorite.
Like best Disney song. Like objectively, what do you think is the best song out there from a Disney movie? Even if you don't like love it the most, you're like, man, that is just, yeah, we recognize, you respect.
I'm gonna say Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. All right.
Not because it's the best as far as like the music itself, but every time you play that song, you start like snapping.
You have to.
Your head starts kind of moving.
Yeah, it's
like you can't be upset.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think it's the best.
Yeah.
Because it's like a song that you can constantly turn on and it's gonna go well.
Yeah, it brings the mood up.
It brings the mood up.
Does.
So that's where it's gonna be that distinction of the best. I think the best as far as we're talking about emotions.
Yeah, I love it.
I think that's like gonna get you in the mood.
It's a winter song for sure. Favorite princess?
Belle.
Favorite prince?
I don't know about any of those princes. I got opinions on most of them. I probably don't have a favorite.
You don't like any of them?
No, not really.
You have to choose one. Because it can be like a prince or someone who's not actually a prince, but like is the guy in the show. So like Aladdin would count as the prince, right? Like Flynn would count as a prince. Kristoff would count as it.
I would probably say Aladdin.
Okay, Aladdin.
He's like a decent choice.
Okay, favorite villain?
Ooh. Probably Ursula.
Ursula.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's a good one.
She's intense.
She's very intense.
Like, I feel like you can't look away, and I'll give her credit for that.
Yeah. For Unfortunate Souls, killer song too.
Yeah.
Like killer. Favorite Disney sidekick?
These are hard. These are good questions, though. I would say favorite Disney sidekick. I have a hard time with rapid fire.
Yeah.
Picking things. This is a challenge.
Because the pressure's on, so you're like, man, I'm trying to remember who the sidekicks even are.
Yeah. I gotta say probably Fairy Godmother from Cinderella.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go.
She spiffed Cinderella up like
sure
lickety
does.
split. She
sure
told
does.
that girl, "You want a prince? I got you."
First one came in my head was probably Mushu.
Oh,
Mulan.
That's good.
He's so funny.
Yeah.
I just love him. Eddie Murphy. Like,
He causes a lot of
he slays.
problems, though.
Oh, he totally does. That's why he's fun. Right? Because like he just does. Like he's just like he's trying to do good, but he just keeps messing things up, and he's just this lovable, like goofy little dragon character. Okay, now this one's gonna make you like dig deep on this one. But first one that comes to your mind.
I'm trying to dig deep.
Okay.
I'm apparently not good at this rapid fire.
Disney moment that always gives you chills. And so this could be from a movie. This could be from an experience in the parks. This could be in a Disney show, like a television show, any Disney moment.
I would say for me, I still get chills when as they start the movie, the castle appears in the preview.
So good.
And it just shimmers.
So good.
And you just know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
Like you just get that feeling of like excitement and anticipation for the new movie.
Yep. Yeah, I love that. Mine's probably in most of their fireworks shows, not every single one, but almost all of them, they'll have a moment where it's When You Wish Upon a Star. And then they'll have a single firework come across the sky. And that for me, like, chills almost gives me the tears because it's what it represents, right?
Yeah.
But like what it represents for what Walt created with Disney, for what that's meant to millions of people, right? For like what joy it brings to people because of that. And so for me, I mean, every time I'll get the chills with that. Like you play When You Wish Upon a Star and I'm like, you melt my heart. Like this, it's just so good. It's so good. Okay. So now we'll kind of in conclusion, let's hit up actionable takeaways.
Yep.
One of the actual takeaways that I heard from you of suggestions that people could take from this is, maybe I'll say it's this week. Go and name your emotions, right? Name your emotions that you have. And then what I think I heard you say is then focus on the ones that you want to have. Yeah. And so I think that could be one of two takeaways from this week's episode, right? This week, go name your emotions that you're experiencing, and then think about the emotions that you want to have. Name those emotions, and then think about those emotions that you want to have. What's one additional actionable takeaway item?
I would say one other additional takeaway item that is actionable, I think Walt Disney did a great job of, is allow yourself to imagine.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of ties into that visualization. We are the authors of our own life.
Yeah.
And I know it doesn't feel like that a lot of the time, but I mean, it's the truth.
Yeah.
Right? Every decision that we make, it's a choice. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't feel that way, but if we continue to remind ourselves that, no, hold on, I'm the author.
Yeah.
And we can rewrite our story. We can change. Nothing's fixed. We can rewrite who we are. We can rewrite what we want.
Yeah.
And so I would say an actionable takeaway tied to that is allow yourself to imagine.
Yeah. And we can do it today.
We can do it today.
Today you can decide that you want to take that step out of the tower, that step into something that is unknown, that might be a little bit scary, that might be new, and have the courage to take that step and know it's going to be rocky along the path, and have the courage to take it.
It's going to go up and it's going to go down, and you might question yourself, but you're going to get to that better end destination. It is going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being on with us today and talking about all things, stepping into the unknown, and wonderful Disney movie Tangled, and all the life lessons that it brings. Thank you for joining us today for Yes and Land, where we try to honor the real story and experiences that you have now and build upon that of the possibilities and the hope for the future.